Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, you and I are going to crank up the metaphorical volume, I guess, and really immerse ourselves in the powerful world of 1970s rock anthems.
Yeah, exactly. And our goal isn't just, remembering the hits. We want to really dig into why these songs struck such a chord back then.
Right.
What was it that turned these musicians, especially the guitarists, into these almost, well, godlike figures? And why did stadiums become these incredible, almost sacred spaces when they played?
Yeah, picture it right. The air's thick with anticipation, then bam,
Yep.
that opening guitar riff just explodes. It totally electrifies the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And those choruses, they weren't just catchy tunes. They felt like declarations. Thousands singing along, fists pumping. This music, it wasn't just background noise. It felt like a real shift, a sonic boom defining youth in that decade.
It really was a shared thing. I mean, think about the cultural footprint of bands like Led Zeppelin, Queen, the Rolling Stones.
Huge.
Their music wasn't just charting, it was everywhere. It soaked into the culture of the 70s, influencing fashion, attitudes, just everything.
And you can't talk about this era without picturing those massive performances. Led Zeppelin at Madison Square Garden in '73,
Oh, yeah.
that footage in the song remains the same. It's just legendary. Captures that whole larger-than-life vibe. Or Queen at Live Aid.
Still gives you chills, right? An
Yeah.
absolutely iconic moment.
Totally.
And what's really fascinating is how much of that impact boiled down to the sheer magnetism of the frontmen. Freddie Mercury, Robert Plant, Mick Jagger. They weren't just up there singing.
No, they were commanding those stages.
Exactly, with this incredible, almost theatrical presence. Their concerts were real spectacles, total events.
And let's not forget the instruments. Guitarists like Jimmy Page, they weren't just playing solos. They were building these complex sonic worlds, really pushing what the electric guitar could even do.
Oh, absolutely. His innovative techniques, they genuinely reshaped rock music. When you talk about Page pushing boundaries, think about his use of the bowed guitar.
Right, on songs like How Many More Times?
Yeah. It created these sounds, these otherworldly, sustained tones, unlike anything people had heard. It really elevated the guitar beyond just rhythm or lead. So if you connect this to the bigger picture, you see how these individual talents, vocals, and instruments, they all came together to create something genuinely groundbreaking.
And it wasn't only the absolute megastars either. Think about the impact someone like David Bowie had.
Constantly reinventing.
Yeah, always changing his sound, his persona. He inspired so many others to just push their own creative boundaries too.
And those landmark albums, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, the Eagles' Hotel California,
Classics.
every track felt like it was meticulously crafted, to really tap into the zeitgeist of the decade. That general spirit, the culture of the time.
You could almost feel the pulse of the '70s in every single note. It was uncanny.
Which kind of raises a really interesting question, doesn't it? What was it about that specific moment in history that allowed these anthems to hit so hard? Was it like a reaction to all the social and political changes happening? Or maybe a kind of deeper yearning for something bigger, more expressive?
It's almost as if the music worked as both an escape valve and a way to sort of grapple with the complexities of the world. The stuff we read pointed out that the lyrics often had surprising depth, even social commentary, if you really paid attention.
Exactly. These weren't just catchy melodies thrown together. There was often a story, a message being put across.
Right.
And the live shows just amplified that message like crazy. The sheer energy going back and forth between the band and the audience, it created this incredible feedback loop of emotion, excitement.
Yeah, the material we looked at even had some great tips for really appreciating this music today. It stressed seeking out live recordings to truly get that raw energy.
And it's so true. While the studio versions are these polished masterpieces, hearing those bands live, that was a whole different beast, almost primal.
Definitely.
And what's also fascinating is how those live performances, often captured on those bootleg recordings that were like these underground treasures,
Oh yeah, the bootlegs.
they became legendary in their own right, didn't they? They just further built up the whole mythology around these bands.
And the suggestion to really listen to the lyrics at such a key point. They weren't just throwaway lines filling space.
No.
They often carried real weight and contributed massively to that anthemic feeling. Understanding the words just adds this whole other layer.
And connecting this to the bigger picture again, the album artwork, that played a huge role too in building that mythology.
Oh, absolutely. Those iconic covers weren't just packaging.
Not at all. They were visual statements about the music, the band's whole identity.
Totally. holding that vinyl LP, poring over the artwork while the record was spinning. It was all part of this immersive thing. And the suggestion to watch documentaries is brilliant, too. Getting that behind-the-scenes look at the artists, the era, it really enriches your understanding.
Yeah, it lets you see the actual people behind these, well, larger-than-life personas and grasp the context these anthems were forged in.
Right, the challenges, the triumphs, their creative process.
It all adds this crucial layer of depth, I think.
And I really like the idea of making your own personal playlist of these anthems. It's a way to kind of keep that energy, that spirit alive and ready whenever you need a shot of that 70s rock power.
What are some of the more outside-the-box suggestions in the material, like the idea of going to tribute concerts or getting involved in online communities dedicated to this music? What stands out to you there?
Well, I think it says a lot about how powerful this music still is, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, even though the original lineups might not all be touring anymore or even around, people still have this deep need to connect with these songs and share that experience, whether it's, trying to recapture the energy at a tribute show or just geeking out over old photos and stories online.
Precisely. It really highlights that communal aspect we touched on earlier. This music created such a strong sense of shared identity and that basic human desire to connect around it. Well, it clearly hasn't gone away.
Now, the source material also pointed out a really quirky aspect of this whole era, and this is where it gets really interesting. The often elaborate, sometimes just completely outlandish nature of the lyrics and especially the stage productions.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking Elton John's absolutely mind-blowing costumes, Pink Floyd's incredibly immersive light shows. It was pure theater on a massive scale.
And another crucial thing to remember is how this theatricality, it wasn't just some superficial add-on, right? It felt deeply connected to the music itself. It amplified the whole sonic experience, created this sense of grand spectacle, and it really helped solidify these artists as these larger-than-life figures operating on a whole different plane.
And that anecdote about Led Zeppelin, supposedly thinking about buying a private island and, well, if the stories are true, maybe even having a pet shark.
Right?
I mean, that's rock star excess taken to an almost mythical level.
It certainly feeds into the overall mythology, doesn't it? These stories, whether they're totally factual or maybe, got a bit embellished over time.
Probably a bit embellished.
Probably. But they all add to the mystique, that perception that these bands were just operating outside the normal rules of existence.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. What's the essential takeaway from our deep dive into these incredible 70s rock anthems?
Well, I think the core insight is that these songs were way more than just popular music. They were a genuine, powerful cultural phenomenon that profoundly shaped a whole generation's identity.
Right.
They had this incredible knack for stirring up deep emotions, sparking a sense of possibility, maybe even rebellion, and crucially fostering these incredibly powerful, shared musical experiences that honestly still resonate really deeply today.
So for you, our listener, we definitely encourage you to go on your own exploration. Dust off those classic albums, maybe dive into the back catalogs of these iconic bands, and just really immerse yourself in the rich and rewarding world of 1970s rock.
Yeah, and on that note, maybe think about those elaborate, fantastical elements we just talked about, the costumes, the crazy stage designs, even those wild, maybe slightly untrue stories around the bands. Reflect on how all that theatricality, that bold embrace of the extravagant, how did it ultimately add to the profound impact and the enduring mythology of these anthems and the extraordinary artists who made them? Was it just entertainment? Or did it tap into something much deeper, maybe about our human desire for spectacle, for transcendence? That's definitely a thought to hang on to long after the final chords fade out.